Welcome to Firma. Interesting. We have a 1v1 sent in by Ken Kanef, I believe, playing as USF, against Endless Knights playing as OKW. So we're gonna see a nice 1v1, which is the first replay that I can get my hands on since the new patch. And we're gonna have a Kubowagen. Interesting. Kubowagen is, of course, really good on this map, as is, expected to be on a 1v1 map. Kubowagens are usually pretty useful because you need that camping power as OKW. We'll see if this Kubowagen dies uselessly like most Kubowagens I see these days. Other than that, we seem to see a normal start out of Ken Kanef, who's going to go for 2 Rifleman squads, so nothing new there. We'll see if he goes for 3 or 4 Rifleman squads, depending on his choices. And we start to get our first Volksgrenadiers out of Endless Knights, so Firma. This map is, of course, a 1v1 classic. 2 fuel points with 2 cutoffs at the main road to protect, and a couple of nice buildings that are really bad if you lose them. And DVPs, of course, spread out across the whole map. So we see the first Rifleman gonna help out the rear echelons and capping up the south, whereas the OKW is controlling the north, it seems. We have the Kubowagen going for the munitions points. This munitions points is usually a place where you send your Storm Pioneers because you want to wire this passage off and wire this cover off so that no one can use it against you. But looks like he decided to send his Storm Piles to the north to the fuel point, or rather to the victory point. Riflemen standing in negative cover. We have a commander choice instantly. We have heavy cavalry. We can see this by the sandbags that he's placing. So immediately when Endless Knights meets one of these Rifleman squads, and we have a third one on the way, he will know that he is either infantry company or heavy cavalry company from these sandbags. Kubowagen notices these Riflemen and decides that that is not a fight that he wants to take, because that is not a fight that it wants to take, and it will decide to instead go for the cutoff point. Now the Rifleman can simply just walk back in and destroy this or rather force back the Kubowagen, so we'll see how this plays out. Storm Pioneers attempting to cross these Riflemen, but there is a negative cover area to approach from, and they get slaughtered without any kind of mercy by the Riflemen. Now the cutoff is captured by the Kubowagen, at least neutral, almost captured, but these Riflemen are right here to regain it for the Americans. So Freedom will be in control of its fuel once again. But at the same time, we have a Volksgrenadier squad also here. It's picked up the church, and there's also another Volksgrenadier squad up here. So this will be very hard for the Americans to dislodge because, well, we already have the building, so that's a really good defensive position, and also we have the supporting squad, which means that these 2 Rifleman squads are kind of outmatched up here. At the same time, this other Rifleman squad is capturing the victory point, is giving a victory point lead to the Americans. But at the same time, the Kubowagen, with a very dangerously low HP pool, is standing around not capping the strategic point, also while being surrounded. So this Kubowagen should really be retreating back to base to get healed up by the Storm Pioneers, who are not being reinforced, even though there's 300 manpower for the Germans. So that's a pretty big mistake. The Kubowagen is going to flank the Rifleman. That is actually a very ballsy maneuver, and it does look like the Rifleman will notice and can immediately decides to focus fire the Kubowagen, which is a good idea. It will actually escape with just driving through, which is incredibly lucky. But at the same time, we also have a nice rear echelon flank from the back. That is incredible. I did not notice this. Pretty awesome flank from the back. Rear echelons were capping up the south, and now they have managed to flank the Volksgrenadiers, who were in negative cover and took heavy damage from both the Riflemen and the rear echelons. At the same time, the Riflemen are attempting to dislodge these Volksgrenadiers from the house, but at the same time, they're just kind of standing on negative cover, which is a very bad idea against the building. At the same time, we have a MG-34, so we have Luftwaffe ground forces being selected by Endless Knights. So we have 2 very classic 1v1 commanders for both of these factions. We will see how this plays out. Excellent decapping of the, or rather capping of the fuel point by these Riflemen, because now they will be able to control the fuel point on opposite ends of the map. So the OKW is really going to need to send something up here, especially this Kubowagen, to recapture this point. He still hasn't built his truck yet. He doesn't even have a Raken yet, which means that if Ken hadn't gone for this ambulance, and I'm guessing Captain, yeah, he's going Captain. Ken have gone for a lieutenant into an M20, this would have been really, really good because, of course, this guy doesn't even have a headquarters, so he cannot even get Panzerschrecks, and he hasn't gotten a Raketenwerfer. But alas, he didn't go for the captain. In my opinion, the lieutenant, especially when you're a heavy cavalry company, the lieutenant is a better choice in the early game against OKW because, well, the main problem of the M20 as a combat unit against Wehrmacht is the Panzerfaust snare, but against OKW there's no snares to think about. And while it does take just a few shots, about 3 shots from Raketenwerfers and Panzerschrecks to destroy it, you can easily run away with the M20's excellent maneuverability. So you can keep it alive for a long time, and you can use it as a combat unit, and not just as a mine later. These riflemen right here are going to be probably wiped by these Storm Pioneers. Ken does manage to notice that the riflemen were getting suppressed, or killed, and they run away just in time. So that is kind of lucky, but at the same time that is good. They noticed pretty decent awareness. Does look like the captain is going to be in trouble. If the captain had gone for the heavy cover, he would have been in a pretty easy position for this engagement, but it does look like Thompson on him will be able to win the engagement for him. And send... Oh no, he will just retreat. Okay. He could have won that engagement. At the same time in the north, we have a bit of a scuffle between some rear echelons and these Volksgrenadiers, but the Volksgrenadiers are in pretty good cover, so I don't think that they will be in too much of a danger from these rear echelons, especially since now that they have captured the munitions point, they can just hop into this house and just stick it to them at long range. We have some bars being upgraded by Ken. Now, he is delaying his Stuart quite a bit with his ambulance and weapon rack purchases, but if he can make usage of these bars to turn around the infantry engagements in his favor, which haven't been going too well, he can definitely make some work happen without the Stuart and just with having a delayed Stuart. It does look like he also, what was I saying? Yeah, no, I'm just stupid. We have a nice engagement up here. Stormpile is walking in for negative cover, which is a terrible idea, and they will be forced back, and I don't have music. It always happens. There we go. So the Kübelwagen is doing some decent harassment. It was forced back by these riflemen, but at the same time, it will be able to recapture the victory point in the north. Pretty decent positioning of the MG at the church, but it's, you know, it's not really doing too much. Of course, if there was more fighting going on for the church, that would have been a good idea. We have a 4th rifleman squad being built by Ken, which is a good idea because if he went for straight captain without going for lieutenant here, then the extra rifleman squad is really needed to just rein in the German infantry a little bit, because the captain is not the best anti-infantry unit. You definitely need some extra versatility with your riflemen to do that when you're lacking the lieutenant and his Thompson and Bar. Kübelwagen is in big trouble because of the captain and is sniped by a ridiculously fast reload. Actually, no, that was a bazooka on the rear echelon. So pretty good purchase of a bazooka on the rear echelon. Definitely the fact that the Americans seem to be in pretty decent control of the munitions will come into play later when there's a lot of weapons being built by the Americans. The Fallschirmjägers being spawned in the shack, and they will be able to deal some pretty decent damage to the riflemen. They will not prevent the riflemen from almost wiping, forcing to retreat one of the Volksgrenadiers, and also making the other one half HP. But the Fallschirmjägers will actually stay in the shack for a little too long instead of actually doing things. At the same time, the Americans are capping up the south. Some storm pilots are attempting to recapture the points, but they will be intercepted by this rifleman squad, which is now bed 1. So if there's any German vehicles that come up, we do have access to anti-tank grenades for the Americans. But the Volksgrenadiers are coming in to reinforce, and will probably be able to force away these riflemen. We also have grenades purchased, which is exactly why I was noticing a bit of a dip in the fuel that was confusing me all that much. So that was not me being completely stupid. We lost a fighting position. Was it up here? A fighting position was destroyed. I'm not sure where. We have a mechanized regiment headquarters, interestingly enough. Now, I hadn't noticed this before, but it's been here a while, and he's not getting the looks out of it, which means that it was a mistake to get this building. MG34 gonna come in and attempt to suppress these Riflemen. They actually pop a smoke grenade, which is not too great of an idea because there wasn't really much to do it here. The point was already captured, and you, of course, weren't trying to destroy the mechanized regiment headquarters with your Riflemen, so you could have just moved back a slight bit and popped the Riflemen into the house, and it would have had the same effect without using the munitions that you desperately need for weapons. So for now, the map control has been in favor of the Americans for pretty much most of the game. VP game pretty much even, but at the same time, we do have the fact that the OKW will be tagging up the late game fairly soon, and that is bad for the Americans because they have had the control of at least one fuel point for pretty much the entire game. There was one brief moment where the Americans decapped the point, but pretty much it was also countered by the fact that they lost their cutoff for a while. So the fuel situation is about even, and later stages of the game, the OKW will be pretty much superior to the Americans. But we will see. We'll see. We have a Major being built by Ken. Now, the Major does make sense in this situation because he didn't go for both Lieutenant and Captain, and he didn't even go for a Steward or a, well, of course, since he didn't go Lieutenant, he couldn't have gone for an M20 or an AA. So, we have a Major pretty much as early as you'd expect from a normal USF play, but this is Heavy Cavalry Company. With Heavy Cavalry Company, you can go for both of the techs, and then even go for some early game units such as the M20 or the Steward, and then not really worry about your late game because of the Pershing, not really requiring the tech costs of the Major. So I'm really not sure what is the plan for Ken. He might be going for some Shermans, because at this point in the game he's way too far away from the Pershing in terms of command points, so a Sherman would be a pretty good idea, and a Jackson would be pretty premature, but I can see why you would want to build a Jackson. I would go for a Sherman. Of course, he also got some Rangers, which can be good, but at the same time, it might bleed his manpower a fair bit because he does have 4 Rifleman squads, and this Ranger might be a lot. He also doesn't have the munitions to upgrade the Rangers to Thompsons, which might not be the best decision. So you might want to save 90 munitions for that. A pretty good Rifleman push manages to capture pretty much all of the south without any kind of resistance. The machine gun over here is going to probably stop this dead in its tracks though, along with the storm pile. This is really not the way you want to be going in because of the storm pile. Going in at close range is a really bad decision against those kinds of units. Rangers attempting to flank over here at this MG34. They will be repulsed as this southern flank does. So pretty much all of the American units are forced into retreat. The captain that was over here capturing the strategic point is also forced into retreat. We also have another Rifleman squad with a BAR attempting to push up against these Volksgrenadiers. An incendiary grenade will go down on them, and they will not be microed in time to avoid most of the damage, but they will at least not die on the spot. The Volksgrenadiers managed to capture the point, but to no avail because they are forced to retreat, and the Riflemen will recapture the point pretty much instantly. The Storm Pioneers actually ate a lot of damage. I'm guessing that was a grenade, which was really unfortunate that it didn't kill the Storm Pile squad. But a Bolshevikers eating Rifleman fire, almost going down, but saved by the MG34 and the little line of sight block of the house. So the situation, while still even, is starting to get turn a bit into the favor of the OKW as they are winning a few of these engagements. They should be attempting to salvage this Cuba wagon, which is good, and he will do that. Puma. Okay, this is not a good idea. He's got a lot of fuel. He's got about 210 fuel at this point. If you count the 200 fuel if you count the Puma. Why did I think that it was 80 fuel? Not sure. Anyway, yeah. He's got pretty much 200 fuel, which means that if he had gone for a Schwer Panzer headquarters, he would be about 150 fuel away from a Panther, aka 3 or 4 minutes if he keeps control of a decent amount of the map. So I'm really not sure what this Puma is all about. I'm guessing he's afraid of some kind of, I don't know, what you would be afraid of. again, this is like the mechanized regiment quarters. There's really no point to this purchase. There was no point to the mechanized regimental quarters if you then go for a Lux or a Stuka, and there is no point to a Puma if the opponent didn't go for a Stuart. If the opponent did go for a Stuart, then yes, the Puma is a counter to the Stuart, and even then it's kind of a questionable purchase anyway in a 1v1 against USF. Puma is a way better vehicle against the Soviets, I find.
We're losing a capture point.
So the Germans are attempting to recapture the southern VP, which has been in favor of the Americans for pretty much this entire game. And the grenade coming out of the Riflemen will scare away the Volksgrenadiers, the storm piles being forced away by rifle fire. Raketenwerfer was also purchased, but it's not being cloaked, which is a mistake. And it's also not in... it's actually being cloaked, but it's firing from not having prioritized vehicles on, which is a terrible decision. Nice decapping from the captain. Excellent usage of these units from the Americans, using the Rangers, the captain, and the rear echelon, who are now capturing points that just aren't defended by the enemy. So using these units pretty much to their full potential, while the Riflemen fight the main fight in the center. At the same time, it does seem like Ken is having a bit of trouble with his MG. He might have considered, instead of these Rangers, he might have considered building a pack howitzer. A pack howitzer would have been a pretty decent choice to just root out the turtling of the Germans around this point. But the Rangers might also prove their worth. Again, really not sure why he wouldn't just save up munitions to upgrade the Rangers with Thompsons, because they're way more effective with Thompsons than right like this normally, or even with VARs. So again, the MG dealing heavy damage to the Rifleman squads in terms of suppression, but a nice smoke grenade is gonna pretty much blind it. At the same time, the German infantry will be able to repulse them pretty easily, and the Sherman, which is attempting to destroy the house, will be repulsed away by the Raketenwerfer. Again, Sherman not turning on HE rounds, definitely a mistake. He does know that the Puma is around though, and the Puma will be chasing after a Sherman, which is not a good idea at all, because there's bazooka squads from the Americans ready to intercept. The rear echelons will not be able to get off a shot because they're stupid. They will get off a shot when they're suppressed though, which doesn't make any sense, but that's how it happens. And the rear echelons at least will retreat in time, so there's a little bit of micro going on there. Again, the Sherman not turning on HE rounds is a very common and honestly a very puzzling mistake. I'm really not sure why people just don't turn on HE rounds just when the Sherman just comes off the field, because that is what you buy the Sherman for. You don't buy it for anti-vehicle, you buy it for anti-infantry. So just as soon as the Sherman gets, comes off the map, you just turn on HE rounds, and then if you need AP rounds, you turn them on ad hoc. But hey, that's just me being stupid, I guess. Really not sure what would be the best choice right now for Ken, if going for a Jackson or waiting for the Pershing. Going for the Jackson would be the safe option, because at this moment, building a Jackson would preclude having enough command points, I believe, for a Pershing. Am I sure? I'm not sure. 14,780. Yeah, it would preclude having enough command points for the Sherman. Rather the Pershing, but you should be counting on losing some units because you're USF, and you always lose units as USF. And in case the Germans are bringing up some kind of heavy tank, you really want that to have, to be on your side. Of course, he's only now getting a share of Panzer quarters, but Ken doesn't know that, and the Jackson would be the safer choice. So some Riflemen will be forced away by the Forschenjägers and the machine gun, which does reposition. Central Church still being under the control of the Americans, and again, Sherman moving up the center road is really bad, because of course you know that the Raketenwerfer is there, you knew it from before, and you still do it anyway. Turns on... Why would you turn on prioritized vehicles? It's... what? And he's got HE loaded, so why would you turn on prioritized vehicles? Still, anyway, the Puma will be able to chase it down and destroy it thanks to its recklessness. And so I guess the Puma did pay off for it in the end, but at the same time we have a huge American assault in the north, actually wiping, in the north and in the south, actually wiping pretty much the entire OKW army. Okay, that was unexpected. So right now the panic Fallschirmjägers are being called in, but the captain is managing to make its push up into their faces and firing at them with Thompson. It should probably be able to do some heavy damage to them, but the Puma doesn't come in to interfere and takes a few shots from the captain. At the same time, the rear echelons are attempting to push up, which is a terrible idea as there's Fallschirmjägers over here. Raketenwerfer is still not on prioritized vehicles for no reason. So I guess the sacrifice of the Sherman was okay, because I'm really not sure how, but during that, the Germans lost 2 Volksgrenadier squads of Panzerschrecks, the Sturm Pioneers, and an MG34. Like, wow, okay. So I guess that was a really good push somewhere else on the map, especially I've seen a little bit of a thrust over here and the Rangers being up here, so I'm guessing the Rangers wiped the squad here, whereas the Riflemen pushing up from the south destroyed 1 MG and, yeah, did that. So they do finally see the Schwer Panther quarters, which will damage the Rangers enough for to force them to retreat, but this will not be enough for the Germans to regain too much, because at the same time the Rangers were able to decap the the cutoff point, and the Americans have a VP lead at this point. They have a triple cap, but they will be denied that by these Fallschirmjägers and Volksgrenadiers. So what right now the OKW need to do is get out some vehicles, possibly even just a Panzer IV. Even though he knows that there's a Pershing coming, he really needs something like that. And again, now he's building the Jackson. Okay, now that you lost the Sherman though, and you have the command points for the Pershing, the Jackson is not a good idea. The reason I advised the Jackson earlier was because, well, you need to counter some kind of German armor, but you can afford to get a Jackson because you have a Sherman for anti-infantry. Now that you don't have a Sherman for anti-infantry, getting the versatile Pershing would be better than getting the, you know, pretty much master of one Jackson, master of anti-tank, but useless against infantry. Of course, it's not like I agree with what the Germans are doing either. Getting the second Fallschirmjäger was a mistake in my opinion. And if he sees the Jackson, he should pretty much just wait for a King Tiger, honestly, because he knows that he will not see a Pershing for a while. So we will see if the Jackson is revealed. The Jackson is revealed in the center. We'll fight the Puma, which is actually not as much of a one-sided affair as you might think. The Rangers in the north were pretty much forced away by the Fallschirmjägers and the German infantry. So again, the Americans having mostly the map control under lockdown, but at the same time they are lacking a few key points such as this cutoff and this fuel point in the north. But at least they have managed to push up enough to capture the middle VP quite consistently, so this is pretty good. They are definitely setting up for a nice final push, which is again why the Pershing would be better. One of the reasons why the Pershing would be better, because of course when you have a heavy tank to push, things are just much easier. The fact that this Raketenwerfer is still around is quite astounding, to be honest, because of its recklessness. But the MG34, second MG34 will suppress the bazooka force of the Americans, whereas the American infantry is trying to approach from a couple of sides. One squad approaching from the south gonna turn, get the attention of one of the MG34s. The second MG34 is nowhere to be seen. Actually, no, it is down here. A grenade. Actually, I think he wanted to pop a smoke grenade over there, but he misclicked into a normal grenade, which is just a shame. The Rangers are back from the base, and they're coming back on the field. Again, as you can see, the power of the bars, all of these Riflemen squads are best free, except this one, because again, just these bars that make it very, very hard for the OKW infantry to just fight. Which is the reason why the control of the munitions points is deceptively very important as Americans. Nice anti-tank rifle grenade coming in from the Americans. The Puma definitely charged in a bit too close to the Riflemen. Rangers gonna attempt to push up and get a possibly grenade down at these logs, but they will be suppressed in time by the MG. They still managed to get a grenade off, almost wiping the MG. One of the Riflemen squads is still not suppressed. At the same time, we have a push in the center. Riflemen are gonna attempt to push up and get the Raketenwerfer retreat. The MG was wiped by these Riflemen squads, but the center push was defeated by the MG34, and we have a nice Fallschirmjäger harassment in the south. We have a third Fallschirmjäger. Again, this is a bit of a trap that a lot of players fall into playing OPW, Luftwaffe Ground Forces, is that just because you can call off Fallschirmjägers, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. Fallschirmjägers are not only expensive to call off, but they're also expensive to maintain, which is, you know, kind of a big deal when you're starved of manpower. And also starved of units, because let's remember, he has the munitions to upgrade 2 extra Volksgrenadiers with Panzerfects, which might be very handy in the upcoming fight against the Pershing. And possibly even just getting an Obersoldaten squad would be better than getting the Fallschirmjägers, because again, while the Fallschirmjägers, yes, they are good, and they deal a lot of damage against infantry, they aren't as good as Obersoldaten despite costing more. The reason they cost more is because they pop off of buildings. The popping off of buildings makes every unit that has that ability cost more than their actual, you know, worth. Again, not really not sure why he isn't going and grabbing this MG, which is a terrible idea, because he's just leaving it to the enemy. And these MG34s are really making it hard for him to just push up in around the space area. And really not sure why he isn't going for it. The Major looks like he's coming up for no real reason. He's gonna fight some Fallschirmjägers. Nice grenade, bundle grenade gonna go down and possibly wipe. No, he's at the last possible second retreats. So pretty decent from Ken. He can call off the Pershing and he should do it as soon as possible. Like, I'm just gonna click it because I just want him to do it. Do it now, please. Do it. You really need this tank to finish the game. Nice Rifleman push, but again, pushing up into Stern Pioneers and Fallschirmjägers is not too terribly a good idea. Pretty good grenade, gonna force back them, the Germans from the logs and the tractor, so that's pretty good. But at the same time, finally, Endless Knights was able to bring up his Volksgrenadiers to recapture the MG, which is like finally, because both of these players should have been recapturing that MG way earlier. While it is only a MG34, it is still an MG. I get Panzer IV from Endless Knights. He's got 250 fuel. You are like 60 fuel away from a King Tiger. Like, why would you go for a Panzer IV? I just don't understand the logic of this. The Puma and the Panzer IV. Like, if you hadn't gone for either of those, you would have a King Tiger by now. I'm not sure if he realizes. And the King Tiger would be pretty good right now. The King Tiger cannot beat the Pershing and the Jackson together, but it can still support his infantry pretty well. An excellent bundle grenade, gonna almost wipe this Rifleman squad. That's actually really lucky for Ken that does not wipe this Rifleman squad, and also doesn't deal more damage to the Rangers and the Captain, only bringing them down to about half HP. And this MG is still here. It's been here for like the last 7 minutes, despite all the flanking that happened. Excellent with the Rifleman. Gonna wipe the MG. Maybe finally this Raketenwerfer will also go down with all of this recklessness. And it will go down. Possibly what would be a good idea right now is take the Captain and attack round, or rather just attack move the Raketenwerfer, just to destroy it and prevent the enemy from recapturing it, even if you don't want it. Which you do want it, so you would probably be better served to bring up your rear echelons to recapture this. So we see the Panzer IV, and now at this point Ken knows that he's won the game, because he's got Jackson and the Pershing against the Panzer IV. That's really no match for what the Americans have. And the Panzer IV actually wipes the Rangers, so at least it's pretty useful. And as you can see, just one shot from the Pershing. Gonna bring it down to about half HP along with the Jackson. Helping? No? Then I'm really not sure what. I guess it was just the bazookas. This is actually a pretty big mistake from Ken. Maybe that's something you don't know. When you use this ability to fire armor-piercing rounds, it's like the tulip rockets. It's not a normal armor-piercing round that it just improves the penetration and damage of the next shot, or the next shots that it does. You actually get a cursor with a kind of a skill shot that you need to use. So what you want to be doing with this is it actually resets the reload time of the Pershing. So basically, when the Pershing fires, you fire, and then after it's fired, I just said fired like 7 times, you immediately press E and you use it on something, and then it magically loads a round into the chamber and shoots immediately. So that's what you do to like deal a shitload of damage with the Pershing, and if you use that little, very dirty trick, you would have definitely killed that Panzer IV. Because again, this round is very expensive, but it reloads instantly from whatever the Pershing has fired, just giving it a lot of burst damage opportunity on unsuspecting German vehicles. And also, it's got a crap load of penetration and a crap load of damage, so yeah, you always want to be using it as much as possible, because it is really one of the main selling points of Pershing. And I'm really not sure why you aren't bringing your Pershing up along with your Jackson, especially bringing it up ahead of the Jackson, because right now the Jackson is in a pretty big, you know, pile of shit. There's no better way to put it. From this Puma, but right now the Germans really need to capture a VP, and there is a nice fighting position actually. So maybe that's where the fighting position was earlier that was destroyed like 25 minutes ago. So this fighting position will be easily able to repulse this German assault down south. At the same time, it doesn't look like it's firing on these Fallschirmjägers that are capturing the point, because they are also a little cloaked and a little out of range. So that's pretty good. And again, American units are pushing up piecemeal. I'm really not sure why. You should just, I mean, this isn't like, don't, you know, give this advice to anyone, but you just like click on all of your units and just attack move over here at this point, because you have such a superior force to the Germans. And you know this because he's built a Panzer IV at like 25 or 30 minutes. He's desperate. I'm really not sure why he built a Panzer IV. He could have just gone for a King Tiger anyway, but yeah, he did that. That means he's desperate. You could just literally click on all of your units, attack move. And once you see the MG, because they still have one MG, you smoke it, and then you just push up and you focus the MG with your Pershing, and you focus the Panzer IV with your Jackson, and there you go. You pretty much ended the Puma with your Captain and the rear echelons of Zooks, and then you pretty much won the engagement, and you can push up and destroy the tech structures and win the game. Of course, he will win from VPs anyway. I don't think there's really anything the Germans can do at this point to combat. He does look like he has the resources for a Panther, which honestly at this point it is the better idea to get a Panther, because it would help out against the Pershing, but that would be true if he had any kind of time to, you know, build up a force again, and he's gonna buy more Fallschirmjägers. Yeah, again, he's lost. Gonna try to just decap the point as a bit of a desperation, but he doesn't really have anything to follow up on it, especially since his only armored unit is getting destroyed by the Pershing. I'm actually really not sure whether or not this round can fire through buildings, but it might very well be possible that this armor-piercing round can fire through. Yeah, capable of smashing through any battlefield obstacle. Also, the Puma will go down from the Jackson as the Pershing destroys and finishes off the Panzer IV, and we have to surrender from Endless Nights. So, just a quick recap of what both of these players could have done better. Ken played fairly well, especially with his flanks from his Riflemen. I do believe that his Rifleman usage is what won him the game, because he kept all of his Riflemen alive. He used them with flanks. He used smoke. He just he upgraded them, which is really useful. Again, I used to not actually. He only upgraded them with one bar. It looks like a few squads aren't only upgraded with one bar. Again, you could always just to check if your squads are upgraded fully or not. You just look on them, and then you look over a you know, you just put your cursor over one of the weapon racks, and if it's a fully upgraded squad, it will show. Let me see if this shows. Yeah, it will show a little, as you can see, a little just stop sign. You cannot do it, and if it's not fully upgraded, you can you know, yeah, just look at that, and you will see if it's fully upgraded or not. Of course, when you have 400 munitions, you should upgrade all of your squads fully. His Rangers were a bit of a disappointment. He didn't upgrade them with Thompsons nearly as quick as he should have, and then he kind of lost them. Maybe a pack howitzer would have served him better. Maybe an AT gun or two would have also been really good for him. Of course, the Germans didn't end up going for any kind of armor anyway, so that was not needed. Really weird, again, really weird build order for the doctrine that he chose. I would have preferred a lieutenant into M20, into captain, into Stuart. That is what I do with Heavy Cavalry Company, and it seems to work fairly well. Then again, I do play more 2v2 than 1v1. so I'm really not sure. Pretty decent harassment all over the south and the north, so that's good. And that's pretty much it for Ken. For Endless Nights, definitely too many Fallschirmjägers. Also a bit of a iffy unit preservation with his mainline infantry. Also a bit of an iffy unit preservation with his vehicles, and also very iffy tech and build choices. Build order, kind of weird. Could have gone for a King Tiger. He could have gone for anything really. Could have gone just mechanized regimental quarters. Wasn't too great of an idea, honestly. Perhaps even if he wanted some kind of early vehicle, he could have gone battle group headquarters into a flak half track. Of course, against captain tier, that is not too great. But if you see a lieutenant tier USF, you can go for a flak half track, which is a pretty good choice to counter lieutenant tier and the units that come out of it. So yeah. Other than that, that was a pretty good game, and there's really not much else to say. So I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed.